Welcome, warriors.
Yay!
Yahoo!
Woohoo!
We are going to be coming at you today with the next episode in our Mundane Anxiety Series.
Mundane Anxieties.
There you go, folks. You heard the sting. That makes it official.
Yeah.
It's official.
Real. Yeah.
So what are we mundaning about today, Abs?
It's actually something I'm really surprised we haven't mundaned about, which is the weather and how the weather, and we can extend it to the seasons, impact our mental health, well-being, and even anxiety.
Saying that with a smile, but yeah, man, I have some big feelings about certain types of weather. So yeah, it's bizarre that it's taken us to season 3 before we were like, let's complain about the weather.
Yes, especially because you and I text quite often. Like anytime it snows here, I like take videos and send it to you so you can be enraged with me.
Yes,
right? Like this is part of our friendship is how much we dislike certain weather.
Yeah. I feel like everyone that follows me, my pages on Instagram, knows how deeply I hate the snow and the cold. Right. Yeah. And here I am in the Northeast and I've dealt with it my whole life. And I love living with all 4 seasons. I truly do. But I really hate the snow. I can deal with the cold. I don't love it, but I can deal with it. But the snow fills me with such intense anger.
Yes.
Like, next level rage when I see even just the people are always like, oh my gosh, just the flurries and it's so peaceful. And for me, it's like the exact opposite sensation goes through my body.
Yep. It's
so
cold.
Interesting.
It's wet. You have to deal with it a lot of the times. You have to go outside. Like maybe I wouldn't hate snow so much if you anytime it snowed, it was like, you never have to leave your house.
Right. Or walk our dogs.
Yeah. Exactly. Like dogs magically don't need walks or have to go to the bathroom in the snow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thankfully, Hurley hates the snow. He hates it just as much as me. So that's nice. He does not like playing in that stuff. He's like, no, thanks. When are we getting back inside? So I'm here for that energy, thankfully. But
my dogs love the snow. And so I make sure to lecture them on how much I love them as I put their snow jackets on. For them to play in the snow. And I put snow jackets on not to keep them warm, but because the snow gets on them like snowballs where you can't just like brush it off. You have to either whisk it off and then blow dry that. Like it is bad. And so, but that is another part of my outrage towards snow is how it sticks to my dog's fur.
Oof. Yeah, that's rough.
But I want to hear
something. Everything. Oh,
it sticks to, I want to hear because you said like I have some big feelings. So I want to hear these big feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like an intense amount of anger and discomfort in my body. It's really hard to, I can't say it any more clearly than that. I feel a tension. I feel like I feel like my belly aches a little bit. I'm holding my breath. I have a little bit of like, what would you call it? Like I'm pacing a little bit sometimes. Like I find
what's the narrative for you that brings on these big feelings?
That I'm stuck. I'm trapped. Because being outside in the snow it gives me anxiety knowing that I need to, but it's about the fact that I feel like if I have to go to work, if it's not enough snow that keeps me home from work, then as you said, I have to deal with it. Which means I have to dress from head to toe. I have to mentally prepare for my toes and fingers to feel like they're going to fall off from being frozen.
Yes.
I have to make sure that I was prepared even the day or the night before by bringing shovels and other things into the house. So in case I have to shovel out the front door, I have something there to help me do so. I had to make sure I brought my car, my car brush out of my car before it was snowing. So I don't get all the snow into the car when I try to get into my car to clean it off.
Yeah.
And then it's about driving, right? We know how I feel about driving and driving anxiety. We did a whole mundane about that. And so the idea of driving in less than great conditions is just,
with other drivers on the road. Oh my God, I know.
And I haven't had any accidents myself, thank God, knock wood, but I've witnessed accidents in the snow. I've watched people spin out. My car has done some spins before. The car takes off on its own mind. And it's just like, oh my God, I'm like, I'll never forget. A huge snowstorm had came while I was at school. And so it was like midday and the snow was way worse than they had projected it was going to be. This was back in like, I think it was the worst part. It was like, the Northeast was hit with Hurricane Sandy back in 2012. And I live on an island. I live on Long Island. And so Long Island was hit extremely hard by Hurricane Sandy. We didn't have power for weeks when that happened. And like a month later, we had just gotten ourselves back to like normalcy. We had a huge blizzard. It was like a huge nor'easter with like 7 to 8 to 12 inches of snow over the course of 2 days. So then we had to miss 2 more days of work and school, which it's like, that's great. But during one of those snowstorms, I had to drive back from school because it was way worse than they had said. And it took me 4 hours to get home. So I was white knuckling and not breathing and not behaving like a comfortable person should behave while they're driving. Yeah. Along with all these other people just desperate to get home. And I went through all the stages of feelings in that car ride on my way home. And so it was just the most frightening and exhausting. Like I went to sleep and I slept for like 12 hours after that. It was every muscle in my body was holding intense and it was just unbearable. And so I always kind of feel a light version of that. Whenever it snows, it brings me back instantly to terrible memories. I don't have great memories in the snow. And also I just don't like cold, wet things. Yeah. No, thanks. It doesn't, even if it's just lightly, coating the trees and the grass and nowhere on the roads or sidewalks, I still hate it. Yeah. I don't like it. Yeah. So yeah, that's the rage and the fear and the anxiety that comes out of that particular weather. And my other big thing is that like when it hits, around the solstice, when it's dark at 4:30, 4 o'clock.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Oof. So yeah, that is just, it's like I'm up in the dark and then I'm driving home in the dark. It's just,
and it's just cold and wet and miserable. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so that's my spiel. What about you?
I mean, I totally relate. 100%. Like as you were talking about driving in the snow, I was there with you, white knuckling right there with you, forgetting to breathe as I hold my breath for the whole 4 hours, like
should have taken me 40 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Screaming in the car, but also trying to be safe, I'm there with you. So I feel everything you say about snow. Like, I don't think I have anything to add about that. So I'll talk about rain. And
love it. Rain. I don't love the rain. I can't wait to hear. Let's be clear.
I love it. No, I don't. I actually don't know which I dislike more, rain or snow. Right. Again, I think that if it's raining really hard, we shouldn't have to leave the house, period. Yeah. That should be the rule. But in college is when I first learned how to really straighten my hair. Yeah.
This is taking a turn.
And I used to really identify with looking better with straight hair. I felt more confident. I felt more attractive with my straight hair. And, it would take at least an hour to straighten my hair. My hair is thick, or it was super thick and curly, and it used to be really long. And to first blow dry it and then straighten it, it would take a lot of time. And so at least in college and in my early and mid 20s, when it would rain, it would just cause me so much anxiety because I didn't want my hair to frizz. Right. But also I had tied my looks into my hair. And so if the rain is ruining my hair, so I'm frizzy, well, I'm less attractive and then I'm less appealing to other people. And then so I'm more likely to be rejected. Right.
So interesting.
Yeah. Now I don't identify with all that at all anymore. At all. Right. I've gotten over all of that. Still annoying when I straighten my hair and then it rains, right? That's annoying.
Totally.
But so I used to really hate the rain. I vowed to myself I would never live in Seattle. I have an aunt that lives in Seattle and I was never, And even like humidity and stuff, like it made me feel less attractive. And so I really hated rain and humidity and stuff. And now I'm getting over that bit of it, but I hate just like getting in the snow and it being wet and cold. I hate just being wet in my clothes. Like, so when it's raining so much that like my rain jacket is wet, it's seeping through. Right. I am miserable. And so having to leave the house in a downpour or walk the dogs in a downpour or any of that, I'm just like you said with the snow, I'm just angry about it. Yeah. It's like, can't you just stop? Like, do you really?
You need to be doing this.
Yeah. You need to have so much water, so that's how I feel about rain and snow. But I will also say that the changing of the time for daylight saving and then like standard also enrages me because it's total bull crap. Growing up, I was told that it had to do with farmers, right? But then I learned that was a lie and it actually had to do with saving energy during World War II. Nowadays, everyone's using energy all times of the night. No one is like, oh, well, it's dark out. I might as well turn my lights off and go to sleep. Although that would be brilliant. I wish we all did that. That would be nice. Oh, it's dark out. Time for bed.
It's just like immediate bedtime.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
it's like universal. Everybody does it.
Yeah. The moment it gets dark out, you do your things, whatever they are, and you get into a cozy bed and lights out until the light comes up again.
Light comes up.
Yes.
Love it.
So, but the changing of the time really, I get jet lag from it. I really get jet lag. I get exhausted the days following it. And I also get rage. And also I've read all these studies about how like more people get in car accidents and have like heart problems.
It's so awful. Dangerous. It's so dangerous. It really is.
It just like, it ultimately impacts my mental health, even though it's not weather. But it is our sunshine. It is the amount of light we get, right?
Exactly. Which is correlated to, right? Oxytocin, right? Yeah. And boosting mood.
Right.
I mean, not for everybody maybe, but for a lot of folks, even if they don't talk about it or have a lot to say about it, it's just like, they may just notice that shift in their mood or energy simply because it's dark when they get up and go out and it's dark when they go home at the end of the day. It feels like the day is gone. I mean, it also just plays into the way our work culture is in this country too, right? It's like, if we didn't work if the typical hours for, I guess, your average, maybe even privileged person in this country, right, is like a 9 to 5 kind of gig. Yeah. So if we're using that kind of normative marker, right, it just feels like even if you work hours that are somewhat close to that, it just feels like your day is gone. Even if your work brings you joy, like mine does, but it just feels like, but where is my time? It feels like, because as you said, if when the lights go out, like the sun goes down and everyone goes to sleep, if that were to be the way that we all lived, we wouldn't feel maybe the same way as like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm having a hard time articulating what I mean. It just feels like we might feel completely differently.
Yes.
If we, as a collective, right, had the choice or felt like we had the choice in more industries to choose, right, when you do things, when you do more work. I always think about too, when we talk about like the schedule that's made for children, right? It's so messed up. It's like we're asking teenagers to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning when they're chronically exhausted as teenagers. Right. Meanwhile, we have little kids that are up at the crack of dawn that would benefit from a really early class that aren't beginning until 9 o'clock. It's just like so fucking backwards. It's so infuriating. Like we live in a culture that doesn't, allow for what's best.
Right.
In terms of times of the day, in terms of when we have our light. A lot of teenagers prefer evenings and nights because they're up longer, or because they sleep more.
Yeah,
exactly. Right. They're able to focus more. And so it's just like, well, again, it just goes into that could be a whole separate mundane rant.
I mean, but it's all outdated bullshit. That's the thing. Exactly. It's all outdated. Changing the time is outdated. They did that in World War II. We can let it go now. Yeah. Setting the times for when kids go to school is outdated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like where we are now as a society, when they set those schedules, we didn't have cell phones and computers and all the things that keep us up late at night. And, so I'm with you on.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to your issues with the rain for a second.
Okay.
So I had a couple of like images flash in my own mind and they were memories of like when something happened when I was in the rain or the snow or again, the cold, wet environment. And so when you notice that you're soaked to the bone or, it's gone through your rain jacket or whatever, like, what is your like go-to move? Is there a go-to move? Is it just to like notice how you feel about the fact that you're soaked through? Is it to like, okay, fuck this, I'm going back inside? Like, what if you're stuck outside doing something and you can't get back inside immediately? Like, what runs through your head?
Oh, I am moody as fuck. I am angry. I probably just need to complain to someone, right? I probably need to unload all the discomfort and anger in me on someone else. Is that fair? I don't really care in that moment. In hindsight, I probably am like, maybe I should, but in the moment, I just have so much just anger. It's like one of those things, like the weather is something we have zero control over. Right. And so it's like practicing being mindful of the experience, even though like I'm not practicing being mindful because it just triggers these very, like you said at the beginning, big feelings. But just in the other sense, like it's really funny because as I'm saying this, like talking it through, like anytime I'm at the beach or I'm in the sunshine, like obviously we can tell what my favorite season is, or at least what my favorite weather pattern is, sunny days, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I like have that moment where I feel the sunshine on me, I pause and soak it up.
Oh, yes.
Right? Like I just naturally become present to my surroundings. I feel joy and gratitude. I'm like, oh, I love you, sunshine. You feel so good. Right. So it's a very different response than in the rain.
It allows you, and I have the exact same experience. It's just like, you want to be mindful, right? Your energy immediately seeks to pause and take it in and enjoy the present moment because it feels good.
Yeah.
Right. It feels like you, it feels like home. It feels safe. It feels supportive. I can totally relate. Yeah. It's just like, I want to soak in the sun, not the pouring rain. And so the couple of images that went through my mind and filled me with rage instantly when you were talking about being soaked was just like, what if you're wearing big like galoshes, like rain boots or snow boots or whatever, that first clump of snow or that first bit of water that goes through the top of the boot.
Yeah.
And then it soaks and it goes down, melts
and
down into your socks.
Wet? Yeah.
Ugh. It's like, I physically prepared to come outside. I am covered from head to toe. This is bullshit. This should not penetrated this boot. And then I'm immediately like, fuck this. And I want to go back inside. And I'm just like, that's when my rage really triggers. If I'm prepared, and then something gets penetrated like that.
Right. You dress in a different way for the weather, but you just reminded me how much it pisses me off about rain boots in general, because usually they're not half sizes, they're whole sizes. They're these big rubbery things and my feet never fit in them. They're always too big or too small. So I always feel like a clown or I can't walk in them, right? Which adds another layer of annoyance when dealing with big rain.
Yep.
But now I have another question for you.
Okay.
Climate change.
What's the question?
AKA global warming. AKA no, because so here's the thing. So I have actually noticed the seasons being different in New York, right? I grew up in New York, lived in New York my whole life. And I remember it was like 2017 or 18 and it snowed in April. Right. And my whole life, it was like April showers bring May flowers. My whole life, it always rained in April. And then May and June and July were like pretty sunny. Well, May was rainy. It would come in like, March was in like a lion out. Like
in like lion out.
Yeah. See all these things. Doesn't work that way anymore.
Nope.
Right? It was downpouring the last time I was in New York in October, which
our hurricane season's extended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so what do you think? Because for me, in Colorado, it's been snowy, like so much more snowy this last year, and there's been more wildfires, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm noticing these changes and it is pretty stressful and unnerving. But if I was in New York during the winter, which it seems like y'all haven't had it nearly as cold, nor had as much snow, I'd be like, woohoo, but also this is terrifying. So that's really my question is seeing things change, what comes up for you?
Yeah, it's so funny that you asked this because I had these thoughts that you just expressed like this week, because we, typically, even though over the years, as you said, it's very, very different from the years when we was an adolescent a child growing up, even through our 20s, and now the last several years, we maybe get one snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's big, maybe it's moderate, but it's still been one, right? Mm-hmm. We've had one every year. And even that going from like multiple to just one is strange for New York, right? And so and this year we've had exactly none. It's snowed a couple of times, actually it snowed yesterday a good amount. There was snow on the grass and our cars this morning because it's been pretty cold the last couple of days, but it hasn't stuck to anything for more than a few hours.
Yeah.
It hasn't been in the roads. There's no piles. There's no shovels. There's no need. I don't even have to clean my car off usually, I can just put the defroster on and I'm good. And it's just, it feels as much as we spent 20 minutes now just complaining about this weather. And when we have to deal with it in the moment, right? I am present with it. I'm present with my big emotions. I'm present with my anger, my frustration, my worry, my anxiety, whatever it is. Until I eventually accept what is and move forward, right? Like with any big feeling. But it's felt a little bit more like a hum for me this year in particular, but the past few years in general, with how few snowstorms we've had. And while I hate it, I don't like it, I don't want it, it feels so unnatural that it is very disconcerting to me. It feels very uncomfortable at the end of the day because it just means that like the earth is warm, right? The earth is warmed and it's not everywhere isn't behaving as it quote unquote should. And okay, things are going to change and that's just life literally. But still, when you've spent, I'm 40 now, when you spent 30 something years with one system being like, hey, when I said before, you have 4 seasons here, typically, right?
Right.
Now it feels like we have 2 really big seasons with like a couple of weeks of the other 2 seasons.
Right. Yeah.
And so it feels like we get no fall and spring. And it's just like a prolonged, warmth, which it's like, I love that I can be in shorts and t-shirts randomly in October. That part's kind of nice. Yeah. We got a good amount of rain and sometimes, that's annoying, but part of my brain's like, I'll take it, I'm going to take those wins when they can, because I am waiting for the other shoe to drop. Right.
Yeah.
This year we've had so little cold days. We haven't gone below freezing in so many days and weeks at this point. Forget about no snow. We're looking at a cold front right now. Everything's really cold, but come middle of next week, we're going to be back up in the high 40s and 50s.
Right.
50s in February is unheard of. That part does feel, it just feels weird. It feels wrong. It feels weird. It's uncomfortable. I don't want it to snow, but I almost feel like I would let out an exhale or something. Like if we make it to March and then maybe we get a random snowstorm, like you said about April. Yeah, it happens. And it's always more annoying on the years when we do get several, nor'easters or big storms come through. But it just feels like our snow season is really tiny, but our wind and rain season, that shit is ever present multiple times a year, not just in our typical hurricane season. And, we had some trauma at our house a couple of years back when a big part of it, one of our big, beautiful trees in our backyard fell on our roof. And it was, I think 3 years ago. And every time we have any kind of wind systems, I have full blown anxiety attacks. they're not prolonged. I'm able to move through, but I have to physically and mentally prepare for the wind.
Yes.
Because I'm just waiting. And if it happens overnight, I have to have my headphones or my earplugs nearby. I don't have to sleep like that any other night. If we have a wind system and the TV is off or whatever, I have to have the ability to shove something in my ears to drown it out, because otherwise I will be up all night.
It's noisy.
I'll just get, not just that, because I will get out of bed and check out the window every 20 minutes. I'm checking for parts of our trees to be on the ground or on the car, or like I'm just waiting for something horrible and traumatic to happen because of what happened. And so like, it does feel like we're getting a lot more of those systems. And as we're saying, that's not normal. It's just not normal. So yeah, I mean, it's stressful. I guess that's how I feel about it. Is I feel stressful about climate change. I feel, worried. I like, people make jokes like, oh, you live on an island, like it's not going to be here forever. Right. And it's like, it's funny and it's really not, it's not funny at all, because it's like, I don't know. It's like, does anyone out there who loves their home want to think about having to leave it?
Right.
I wouldn't think not. Right. So, anyway, so
yeah.
So that's the long-winded version of how I'm doing about climate change.
Yeah.
How about you?
I mean, like everything that you said, it's like in the one sense, in the moment where there's unpleasant weather, it gets more of a reaction from me, right? Every day I'm not like, oh my God, climate change, right?
Yes.
But I feel like every time, like it's gotten way colder here, way more often than it usually does. And like every time something's out of the ordinary is when I'm like, oh man,
right.
Like, do we have to at some point move, right? Like the wildfires are getting way worse in Colorado, right? Like that, like, just like what you were saying, it's like, okay, do we need to plan for a future, and when in the future do we need to plan for? Right. And so I'm going to go off tangent, but I'm just going to drop it in the bucket and then let it go. But that is one of the reasons that I'm really on the fence about ever having kids, is because like of climate change, like we're not doing anything about it. Right. So do we really want to leave the next generation like fighting over land? Like, so
yeah,
but that's
100%.
Part of the climate change and the weather is part of the reason, like, I think about, do I want kids or not? Right.
Totally.
But the last thing I'll say about all of this, in this, it was supposed to be mundane, but we made it a little less mundane.
It's mundane in that we have to deal with weather on the daily, and that weather makes us feel things.
Yes.
It's just that those feelings are heavy for us.
They can be. Yes. I love that you brought up the wind, because I usually hate the wind. Like I forgot about the wind. I forgot when we were saying we were going to talk about weather, like instantly I was like snow and rain. But I fucking hate the wind too, especially when it's like 50 mile per hour and it's knocking over branches and it's spreading wildfires. Like there was actually a crazy wildfire right outside of Boulder last year, where like so many people lost their homes, right? And it was unheard of. And the reason that it happened was some moron was doing something with fire in the wind, and the winds were so abnormal, right? We never like had winds like that, and that instantly something caught on fire, and then it just burned down tons of people's homes.
It's awful.
So I'm glad you brought up wind too, because I forgot about my hate for wind until you mentioned it. Yeah. Again, it also messes up my hair.
It's all about hair. Let's lighten it up a little bit. Let's go back to hair and wind. I have a fun story. So it's not about me in particular, although I could tell another one about that. My sister and I, we joke, we have very different hair. My hair is not as curly as yours, but very, very naturally wavy. It's long, it's thick, right? And so I've always had that issue my whole life as well. Not about feeling the need to straighten it, but like having to contend with it. It gets frizzy really easily, and it's like wild and all over the place. Anyway, so my sister has very thin, fine hair, right? It's just a very different texture from mine. But we both have the same, like, if we're out in the wind, our hair is going to be messed up, right? Doesn't really matter, I guess, the type of hair you have. If you're out in a windy, shitty day, you're going to have messed up hair. So I'm sure everyone listening with hair can relate. Anyway, so we were on the ferry going over to Fire Island. This was a few summers back. And, you know, you're on a ferry and we chose to be outside, you know, not in the lower portion. We were up in the upper portion, which it's like you're basically outside on this big boat. And so we both had our hair, I think they were both in ponytails. I don't remember exactly, but we put them in ponytails because we were going to be on this boat and we knew what would happen, right, to both of us. So we spend the ferry ride, you know, talking and whatever, enjoying the sunshine. And we get to our destination, Fire Island, and both of us look at each other and we looked like gorillas, like even with ponytails, like our hair was literally everywhere. It was all over our faces. And so we were both like jokingly, we're like, oh my God, you know, we look crazy. Thankfully, we're just going to the beach. It's fine. Like, you don't have to look cute on the beach, whatever. And the girl in front of us, who is, I don't know, she's probably like a good 15 years, 20 years younger than me. So like a good, you know, 30 something years younger than my sister. She just had that kind of hair that we knew that like it wasn't going to frizz. Right. So we're just staring at it. It was like, oh, it was thick. You can tell it was very thick, but it was beautiful. It was just like, I'm like, this girl's hair is not going to look, it's going to look great when we get there. We were like joking about it. So it was like straight from a movie. We parked, they parked the boat and we're like making fun of each other. We look insane. And she just like in slow motion pulls out her ponytail and like shakes out her head, right? You can just see it, right? Just slow motion ponytail, shakes out the hair. And it was just like bouncy and vibrant and smooth and perfect little we were just like, fuck you. Like, but in a loving, funny way. Like we didn't know this person, but still. We were just like, we knew it. We knew she was still going to look cute at the end of this boat ride.
She does not get bothered by wind.
Clearly.
At least with her hair.
Yeah. That's true. And anyway, it just made me laugh. But like, yeah. And the less funny version, also with my sister, ironically, was we had thrown my parents their 50th wedding anniversary. That was 7 years ago. They're going to be 57 years married in just a few days. We're recording this in the beginning of February. Their anniversary is February 5th. Happy anniversary, mom and dad, 57 years. Couple goals. We threw them a surprise party and there was a huge nor'easter, just like a massive like weather system that was moving through. And so we had both gotten our hair like blown out, like for this party, this fancy dress up party where we had 75 people coming to this venue on the water, of course. So imagine the wind is so much worse on the water. If anyone else is landlocked or you don't know, right? Yeah. Wind is way worse by the water, people. Yeah. So we had to get there early and set everything up. And basically by the time we got in with all of our stuff, it was like we wasted $30 each or however much we spent on our blowouts. Like, our hair looked like total shit. And like we were there super early. We were able to fix it before the party started. Yeah. But still, we were just like, of course, this weather would be happening. Talk about anxiety. We were so stressed. Not everybody was going to make it to the party. Yes. Oh my God. Everyone made it there safe and sound. So there was that. But, and the surprise was intense. Stuff. Yes. It ruins stuff. Exactly. It ruins stuff sometimes, the weather. Not just, I mean, again, that part's kind of mundane. At the end of the day, it's like, didn't ruin our homes or anything. Right. But like it can ruin stuff you have planned. And that's just a bummer. Yeah. It's a bummer. So there's your lighter side of weather anxiety. All right, warriors. So maybe you take some time today, this week to think about how the weather impacts your mental health. Did something we share resonate with you? Do you feel the exact opposite about rain and snow and wind that Abby and I do? Maybe you don't think too much about the weather. Maybe you really go with the flow about stuff like that. And maybe you could email us with some suggestions on how we can become a little bit more go with the flow about that stuff. Yeah.
Give us an active practice.
Yes, we would love an active practice about that. So take some time to think about it. Do you feel like you have some experience with seasonal affective disorder? Do the change in seasons or, daylight saving time or whatever make an impact on you in your work schedule? And these things that are out of our control, as Abby had said before, are you a control enthusiast like us? And so does it make you kind of struggle with the fact that you can't control Mother Nature? Or again, maybe you're just kind of like here for it all, in which case, I guess good for you. I don't know. Cheers to that. Those are some goals for us, I think, you and me. to work on being able to be with our big feelings and our sensations that we go through, and not shit on them.
Yeah.
But try to maybe find ways to be mindful and embodied in the discomfort.
Yeah.
That's going to be a goal for myself.
The wind.
I like it.
Yeah.
Watching my negative feelings about the wind go on the wind. Just, that was lovely. Abby just did a nice wind hand motion. That's going to be, I think, a reframe for me that I'm going to attempt in the next little bit, is to just try to find a way to feel embodied in any discomforting moment when it comes to weather. Maybe it's, after acknowledging how I feel about it, going to offer myself something that brings me joy, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's brain dumping on Adam or you or someone else about it. And maybe talking about it helps me feel better afterward, right? And so finding ways to sort of like be true to your feelings about something, but then work on finding the joy again, moving through. So take some time with that this week, warriors. Abby, do you have a win of the week? Win of the week.
I do. I have a really special win. It's actually like sat with me for a few days now, right? So it's really nice. So you know that, first of all, I love Book of the Month Club. I get a book every month. I get introduced to new authors, new books. I'm really into that. And then from there, I found the Book of the Month Club Swap on Facebook, which is just a group where after you read the book, if you are looking for another book and someone has it and they want your book, you swap, right? And then from there, I've joined 2 other swap groups that extend beyond Book of the Month Club books, right?
Got it.
And there's always a little bit of a gamble when you're doing it, because once in a while, someone doesn't send their book out, right? And so the other person sends the books out and they don't get it back. But the community is super nice and supportive, where first of all, they ban that person if they don't send a book. But second of all, every time someone's like, what book were you looking for? If I have an extra, I'll send it to you, right? So it's like a really lovely community. So I have like 6 books, but I had 6 books that I was looking to swap. And I was really only looking for like 2 particular ones. And I found those right off the bat. And so right away I had 2 people swapping 2 different books. And then this other person was like, hey, I really want this particular book. Do you have anything else on your wish list? So I offered some other wish list, like to be read lists, right? And so we swapped, and then me and someone else swapped too. So anyway, the one person that had reached out and said, do I have anything else on my wish list? When we were connecting, I was swapping with her this book called The Heart's Invisible Furies. And that book I really liked. Like I really, really liked it. Like I couldn't stop talking about it to Dan. I felt really connected to the characters. It was just a beautifully written book. It was really interesting. Has really like 4.5 rating on Goodreads or whatever. And so I knew I wanted to swap it, but when someone actually asked to have it, the part of me that was like, oh, right. So I told her, I said, I really hope you enjoy this book. Like I really enjoyed it. I debated if I ever wanted to swap this or not, but I just know I won't read it again because there's so many other books I want to read.
Right.
So on Monday, all like 4 books arrive at the same time, right? Like it was really nice. And I was like, yay, got a stack. So this one girl, I open it up and there's 2 books in there. There's the one we agreed upon. And then there was the one that I've been looking for, the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I've been looking for that book. No one has it to swap, or no one wants to swap it because they really enjoyed it. And it was in with the book we agreed on to swap with. So she gave me 2 books and she wrote me a note and she said, after our conversation, she was like, I really enjoyed this. This was one of my favorite reads last year. And after our conversation with you, giving up your book, I figured I probably won't read this again. And so I just wanted to include this in the swap.
Aw.
Right. And it was I don't know this person. I may or may not ever communicate with this person again. Right. Yeah. But just by me telling her how much I really hope she enjoyed the book that I really enjoyed, She knew I was looking for this other book, and she sent me 2 books in the swap, and one was a surprise, and it was just really special.
That's nice.
Yes.
I love when good people just do that. Like that's just, yeah.
And
like good people.
Like really, it touched me. I didn't know how to say thank you enough. Like I was so touched by it. So
she cared. She cared.
Yeah.
She and probably feel that you cared.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she knows I cared. She knows I sent her like a billion Facebook messages. Like, oh my God, thank you. Yeah.
There you go. But she didn't know that you were going to react like that either, right? She probably just thought like, oh, I can do this nice thing. And so I'm going to. And like, just how easy it is to just sprinkle that little extra bit of kindness.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Especially since she already had the book. It wasn't like she went out and bought you a random book.
Right. And she knew I wanted it because I had shared my list of my book wish list. So she knew I wanted it. I was on the lookout for it. But also she was attached to it, but not so attached to it because she didn't offer to trade that book. She offered to trade a different book on the list. Right. And it was just that like little basic conversation of like letting go of something so other people can enjoy it that inspired her to do it. And
I love it.
Really, freaking made my week. I can't stop thinking about how grateful I am for that interaction.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Well, you can just do a karmic pay it forward. Someone else, right?
Yep. I know someone who has been looking. I mean, I don't know them personally, but they're in this Facebook group who's been looking for a book that I have. And so originally we were going to swap, but it was going to be for the witches book. And so I might just send them that book.
Right? Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. What a good win.
Yeah.
So warriors, if you'd like to connect with us for any reason, you can join us over on Instagram. We're at Anxiety Warriors Podcast, or you can feel free to shoot us an email at anxietywarriorspodcast@gmail.com to shout out your wins of the week, share topic ideas with us, or if you think you'd be a great fit as a guest on our show, let's get you on the calendar. Let's help you tell your anxiety journey. No story too big or too small for us. We love them all equally. Please take 2 seconds and smash that 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're tuning in right now. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all of our episodes uploaded for you all over there. And then hop on into our show notes and click our Threadless merch shop link. You can get some amazing Anxiety Warriors podcast stuff on everything from t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, journals, yoga mats, you name it. You can get something with our logos on it. To help support the work that we're doing and hopefully can keep doing because it brings us so much joy.
Yes. Well, thank you all so much for going on this journey with us. We are so grateful that we get to do this with you all.
Till next time.